Our once proud town centre is in decline. Yes, we're in the middle of a drawn-out recession, and high streets up and down the country are suffering. Competition from out-of-town shopping and the internet doesn't help either. But with Hounslow town centre, the problem is long-term. It's been underperforming and going downhill for 2 whole decades, regardless of prevailing conditions. So what's gone wrong, and what can be done to put it right? How can a town centre with a solid heritage, with so much potentially going for it, be so messed up? In this study, we attempt to answer those questions. We look at the past, we consider the present, and, most importantly, we propose a viable design for Hounslow's revival. Why are we doing this? Because, for a number of years now, successive administrations of our council have been helicoptering in teams of consultants from outside the town to come up with solutions to the acknowledged problems. But unfortunately, they've consistently produced the kind of uninformed, unlovable, and in some respects patronizing schemes that only outsiders could have the nerve to put forward. Master plans that would compound the long-running problems rather than heal them. The residents just don't buy it. So we've felt it necessary to go beyond simply criticizing and to come up with a locally produced alternative. This is a design put together by Hounslow residents who have a long-term knowledge and understanding of the town. It's a design for Hounslow, and it's made in Hounslow. The heart of Hounslow was dealt its first severe blow in the 1980s, when the fine civic buildings of Treaty Road were demolished. In fact, the whole of Treaty Road was ripped out, amputated, and a large shopping mall inserted. The follow-up blow was the uprooting of the old Alexandra schools and neighbouring sites next to the High Street, replacing them with nothing for over a decade, and then a desperately hasty, outsized development fronted by a car park that continues to overshadow and blight all the surrounding suburban streets. A knock-on effect of displacing the primary school was the loss of our football ground. The final indignity inflicted upon the wounded body of the town centre came when, having had its vital organs and limbs removed and in dire need of life support, it was given an unnecessary heart bypass via Hanworth Road and Grove Road. This had the debilitating effect of withering the historic main artery of the High Street and removing its lifeblood. All of these things were done in the name of progress, it was claimed, so that Hounslow wouldn't get left behind. The council's dream at the time was to make Hounslow High Street the Covent Garden of West London. None of the schemes put forward by one expert consultancy after another has captured the imagination of local people, local businesses, or local stakeholders. The plans are time and again characterized by a two-pronged approach. 1. Fill up every possible open space with as much new commercial and retail floor area as can be crammed in. 2. Try to cheer everyone up by changing the colour of the paving on the pedestrianised high street. Can the same kind of thinking that caused the decline in the first place, the dated 1980s mindset of building and shopping our way out of trouble, really be trusted to turn the problems around? Why is there an obsession with such overdeveloped retail-heavy schemes? Perhaps it's inevitable that firms of expert consultants who have built their reputation on producing mega shopping complexes will come up with more of the same when commissioned to look at our town. As the saying goes, if your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. The word exciting is used a lot in these schemes, perhaps to try and dress up their lack of humanity and depressing absence of urban design, distinctiveness, and civic pride. No one outside the council bubble is convinced. It seems that even those in the council only try to defend the proposed mediocrity out of a desperate sense of anything's better than nothing. The problem with these schemes, or visions, or master plans, is not only that they show no imagination, but that they are founded on a lack of understanding of the High Street's history its essential character, and its reasons for success in the past. Any scheme for redesign of our town centre will inevitably end in failure unless the real reasons for its decline over the last 2 decades are understood and acknowledged. So to begin with, a short lesson on history and character. We need to appreciate the history of our high street and town centre to know why Hounslow was successful in the past. The high street's essential character as a linear thoroughfare accommodating a diversity of town centre activities needs to be rediscovered and reinterpreted. Hounslow High Street lies on the old Roman road that ran from the City of London to Silchester Roman town near Reading. As far back as the 13th century, people travelling between London and the West Country stayed overnight in the buildings of Holy Trinity Priory. Moses Glover's fascinating map of 1635 clearly shows the High Street as a thoroughfare forming part of the main road west out of London. Throughout the coaching years of the 18th and 19th centuries, it remained an important stop between London and Bristol, thriving on the passing trade of travellers in horse-drawn vehicles, and is mentioned in the works of William Hazlitt and Charles Dickens. In the late 1800s, the horse-drawn Hounslow omnibus travelled along the High Street from the Bell to St. Paul's Cathedral and back twice a day. In the early 1900s, electric trams, as well as carts and early cars, went up and down the length of the High Street, then known as Hounslow Broadway. A few decades later, in 1970, the handsome High Street played host to the equally good-looking Richard Burton, providing the backdrop to one of his films in which he is seen driving near Neal's Corner and the old Woolworths building before turning into Lambton Road. The essential characteristic identified in these snapshots is that of the High Street as a proper linear thoroughfare. The shops continued to prosper on the through traffic right up until 1994 when, following the fashion of the day, half of it was closed off and pedestrianised. Here's an extract from the A to Z from the 1980s, before pedestrianisation. You can easily identify the High Street, a strong backbone to the town and an integral part of the network of roads. It's as straight and solid as you'd expect a Roman road to be. Now let's compare with a recent road map of Hounslow. Where has the High Street gone? It's shriveled to almost nothing, and the road system around it is painfully contorted. Hounslow High Street has been virtually wiped off the map. Who would know that it exists? If as a street you're not part of the vehicular circulation system, you're nobody. Moving on to diversity, the town centre used to proudly host a whole range of different building types and experiences. The High Street was a vibrant central spine with a variety of functions off it to either side. As well as shops, the town centre has in living memory boasted a number of cinemas, all now demolished. The very fine civic buildings of the old town hall, demolished. The wonderful old public library and the children's library, demolished. The swimming baths, demolished. Proper public conveniences near Neal's Corner, demolished. The Edwardian-style old Alexandra schools with lots of mature trees and green open space, demolished and uprooted. The old Conservative Club, set in another generous open plot, demolished. The old post office, closed. A terrace of lovely historic cottages in Holloway Street, condemned. And Hounslow Manor School, partially demolished. That's an indication of the diversity that once existed and is now virtually lost. Fortunately, Holy Trinity Church, with its bold 1960s modernist architectural character, survives. Where have these lost facilities been displaced to? Either to previously open parkland or recreational land outside the immediate town centre, or into shopping malls. What has replaced this diversity? the treaty centre, and a huge monolithic development of shops and flats known as the Blenheim Centre, plus a large tarmac car park. This is the elimination of diversity. Diverse functions feed off each other, have beneficial relationships, and result in local resilience. But there's very little diversity or resilience now. The beautifully simple and naturally evolved diagram of our high street and town centre has been distorted into something far removed from its original clarity. The wounds of the last 20 years of inappropriate development desperately need to be healed rather than reinforced with more of the same. If we're to have any chance of solving the deep-seated problems of our town centre, we have to think creatively as well as learning from history. It's not just about trying to fill in the blanks with more retail and flats. The solutions are there, but only if we're honest in recognizing why it's gone wrong and dare to restore the lost character and diversity by being at once daring, radical, restorative, and generous in our thinking. More needs to be said on pedestrianisation. It's a huge key issue for our town centre. Before pedestrianisation of the high street, thousands of people passed through it every day in cars and buses and could admire the shops and choose to stop off or come again another day. The whole high street was an advertisement and a shop window for what Hounslow had to offer. The experience of the traveller passing through Hounslow today is entirely different and extremely limited. As soon as you approach the main part of the high street, where Brentford Nylons once was, you're diverted onto the Hanworth Road and Grove Road bypass. This ghastly product of degenerate planning and highways engineering, featuring the backsides of buildings and car parks, is what thousands of people know as the face of Hounslow today as they pass through. How many of them would want to make the effort to come back specially to sample the shops of the high street? The sad thing is that many of them probably don't realise that there even is a Hounslow high street. Of course, pedestrianisation can give the benefit of a car-free environment for people to walk in, but it's not necessarily the most appropriate solution for improving every shopping street, particularly a main thoroughfare that's historically been vital to a town centre's circulation system. On the downside, traffic and sensible bus routes have to be displaced, bypasses are created, and there's a knock-on effect on the network of connecting roads that have slowly evolved over centuries, some of which become dead ends or redundant. Shopkeepers are generally not fans of pedestrianisation. Footfall can go down, reducing business. Pedestrianisation can also result in a menacing emptiness, lack of natural public surveillance, and an increase in the likelihood of antisocial behaviour after shops close. Is it really a coincidence that the undeniable and sad decline of our high street, with the most special stores gone, and the uncontrolled rise of pound shops and pawnbrokers, has coincided with the removal of the old heart of the town centre and pedestrianisation? 700 years of successful thoroughfare, or nearly 2 millennia if you count from Roman times, versus 2 decades of pedestrianised decline. It's clear, and the inconvenient truth needs to be spoken, that the few friendly benefits of Hounslow's pedestrianisation experiment have been far outweighed by the problems and damage it has caused to our town centre when the bigger picture is considered. Things need to be put right. This doesn't necessarily mean a full reversal of pedestrianisation, which in any case would not be without precedent, but coming to a balanced approach. The high street needs to be allowed to express itself as a proper linear thoroughfare again, with all the benefits this stands to bring. That needn't mean an end to the positive aspects of a car-free zone, though. The ideal solution for Hounslow High Street would be daytime-only pedestrianisation, as found in many other towns. More on this soon. Coming up with a solution for the heart of Hounslow is as much an exercise in urban design as it is about planning. Tragically, the Council considers these overstuffed diagrams, its latest proposals for our town centre, to be examples of urban design. After over 20 years of evolution, this is how far the Council's design ideas for this once beautiful but now desolate site have come. Urban design is architecture at the scale of a town. It's about the placement, arrangement, and relationship between buildings and open spaces. It's about the scale of those buildings and spaces as opposed to their detailed design, how they will be experienced in terms of visual and physical sequence, how the spaces will interconnect, reveal themselves, and lead from one to another, the classic play of connection, transition, and culmination, and how different functions and activities will interact. It's about landmark buildings and public spaces helping with legibility, orientation, and identity. And it's about how movement between buildings and through spaces is expected to take place. Urban design recognizes that linear spaces encourage movement, while nuclear spaces lend themselves to being centers of congregation. Above all, urban design is about people and their experience of the townscape. Urban design comes before architecture, and bad urban design cannot be rescued by any amount of fancy architecture. Regrettably, when measured on a scale of urban design, the Council's consultants' efforts, after years of trying, still barely register a reading. So we've looked at the history and development of the town centre, in addition to analysing its current state. This was essential before embarking on a new scheme, and has given us an understanding of its anatomy, its relationship to a wider area, and a respect for its true character. We've accepted that change is inevitable and even necessary, but our research and understanding serves to guard against the imposition of inappropriate solutions. So here we are, on to solutions. 4 simple but major moves would revive and restore the town centre to its former status. Firstly, as already mentioned, restoration of the high street to a thoroughfare, but with daytime pedestrianisation to enable it to be open to vehicular traffic in the evenings and overnight. Secondly, redesigning the car park fronting the Blenheim Centre as a series of genuine open public spaces with a clear physical and visual connection to the high street. These would be places to meet and congregate, with the potential to accommodate markets, shows, and much more for local people. Thirdly, developing the west side of the quayside car park as another key anchor with potential to accommodate large department stores, smaller shops and cafes, and an entertainment and leisure facility. Fourthly, relocating the functions of the civic centre to the east side of the quayside car park, as well as to other office locations in the high street. This contribution to the restoration of town centre diversity would reinvigorate the high street and town centre, while freeing up the current civic centre site for redevelopment. Here's an overview of how it all comes together in a new diagram. Running east-west across the middle of the image, in the gold colour, we have the strong revived axis of the high street. The lost golden thread reconnecting central London with the West Country is rediscovered. The main artery is finally unblocked, and the lifeblood of the town centre flows through the Roman road once again with resulting benefits. The red-coloured areas indicate connecting pedestrian routes or footpaths. There's no embarrassment about linearity, and no chopping up into artificial zones or hubs. The high street is proudly back on the map. Practical, meaningful connections with the network of surrounding roads are restored where they have been previously damaged. Here we have Kingsley Road, Cecil Road, Prince Regent Road, Matisse Road and Alexandra Road, pretty much as they are now. Lambton Road, Bath Road, Staines Road and Bell Road all reconverge with the High Street at a restored Bell Junction. The Hanworth Road Grove Road bypass remains, as it would continue to be essential during the daytime. Hanworth Road, Witton Road and Inwood Road are also shown. The general building stock of the High Street is shown in the light grey-blue colour. The three key anchors of the town centre, which form a triangle, with the revived High Street running along the base, are shown in velvet brown. They are Marks & Spencer and Primark, the Treaty Centre, and the Blenheim Centre. In dark purple are the town centre's institutions, namely Holy Trinity Church, the police station, Hounslow Manor Secondary School, recently renamed Kingsley Academy, Hounslow Town Primary School, and the United Reformed Church. In lilac are buildings that are either currently owned by the council or that we propose the council should acquire. These are Montague Hall, a number of quayside properties, Hounslow Youth Centre, Inwood Park, and the old Wheelhouse site. In pink is a proposed retail and leisure development, a new key anchor for the town centre. In the heart of the triangle formed by the existing key anchors is a group of new public open spaces, well connected to the High Street, and which will shortly be described in more detail. Firstly, opening up the High Street. With a daytime pedestrianisation arrangement, we have a carefully designed ground surface, including clearly defined pavements, but the whole stretch of the High Street from the Hanworth Road junction to the Bell is reserved for pedestrian use from early morning to the evening, say 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then, from the evening until the following morning, bicycles, cars, etc. are permitted to pass through. This kind of arrangement is successful in a number of British and European towns, including Guildford High Street, pictured here by day and by night, with its attractive cobbled street surface and low speed restriction. There are also numerous towns in Europe and other parts of the world where slow-moving trams, or trackless road trains, have proven to be a safe, successful and attractive feature in pedestrian areas. Kassel in Germany is an example of pedestrian area trams, while trackless Dotto road trains are found in pedestrianised town centres in Switzerland, France, Italy and Spain, as well as the UK. So we also suggest the idea of two small trams, or more realistically road trains, plying up and down the pedestrian high street throughout the daytime, ferrying shoppers and visitors from the new Tesco and bus garage to just beyond Bell Junction and back, picking up and dropping off at half a dozen key stops along the way. This is envisaged as a local hop-on, hop-off transit service, running during pedestrian hours only and at no cost to the user. It's not part of the bus system. No other vehicles would be allowed on the high street between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. This distinctive feature, harking back to the high street's history of carriages, omnibuses and trams, and again recognising its character as a linear thoroughfare, is bound to prove not only very popular as an attraction for visitors and shoppers, but also has practical functions. Firstly, high levels of shopper parking need not be concentrated in the new heart of the town centre, but can be in car parks sensibly located at the east and west ends of the tram run. Secondly, interlinking with bus routes at the stops at Bell Junction and the bus garage would enable the town's presently badly connected public transport hubs, i.e. the underground stations, buses and the BR station, to become joined up. In the evenings, the road trains retire for the night and the high street is open for the passage of permitted vehicles as described. These arrangements give us the best of both worlds and solve a number of recognised concerns identified under previous council consultations, namely, the low natural surveillance and a sense of insecurity for users at night, difficult navigation for those travelling by public transport, generating negative perceptions, lack of evening uses, and servicing. Importantly, they unify the town centre and make it more accessible. People will actually feel safe walking along the high street in the evening. It won't feel deserted and menacing anymore. The through activity and easy connection with the new adjoining public spaces will encourage an evening time economy and culture of late opening cafes, restaurants and shops to develop along the high street, perhaps further encouraged by allowing on-street parking along one side. Car drivers and passengers passing through the town centre will once again see a positive face of Hounslow, glance across at the activities in the public spaces, experience the Christmas lights in winter, and see the shop fronts of the high street again as a shop window for the whole of Hounslow that will make them want to either stop off or visit again in the daytime to enjoy first-hand what the town has to offer. Secondly, bringing the Civic Centre home. The Civic Centre on the edge of Lambton Park is out on a limb from the town centre. It's at least a half-hour return journey on foot, and it's also underused as it's much bigger than it now needs to be. Selling the buildings and land off to developers to build, for example, family housing, would raise millions and enable the functions of the Civic Centre to relocate to the heart of Hounslow. With modern office equipment and communications, council staff don't all need to be situated in the same large building, and different departments can realistically be distributed around the high street area in existing premises that the council should aim to acquire. To enable the move in the short term, there's an abundance of office space in the area that can be rented or purchased and brought into use. In the longer term, the council's aspiration should be to acquire the group of properties consisting of the Holloway Street houses, the old post office, the Royal Mail sorting office, and the BT telephone exchange buildings. This overall site is then redeveloped into a new civic centre to house core council functions and council chambers, with basement-level car parking available to the public at weekends, and with a selection of ancillary departments continuing to be located in other town centre office sites. Ideally speaking, the Holloway Street houses would be restored for heritage reasons and reused, although we recognise that this might not be feasible. The presence of hundreds of council staff in and around the high street on a daily basis, able to make use of the shopping and leisure facilities during the daytime and evening, would be mutually beneficial, add to local diversity, and be a fantastic boost for the town centre's vibrancy and economy. Thirdly, quaysite development. The major quaysite development proposed is a 5 to 6 storey building providing up to 20,000 square metres of retail floor space plus 10,000 square metres to accommodate a leisure and entertainment facility in the form of a multi-lane bowling alley and a multi-screen cinema complex. The retail element is large enough to attract 2 prestige department stores as well as smaller shops, cafes and restaurants, and the whole development is fronted by a ground floor covered walkway. Parking for approximately 200 cars is provided at basement level, or twice as many with double basement parking, with the car park being accessed via a ramped entrance at the foot of Alexandra Road. Fourthly, public spaces. The High Street itself, being a Roman road, is clearly linear in nature. This is ideal for a thoroughfare, but not suitable for providing public gathering spaces. The council's latest designs for the High Street attempt to string a series of so-called squares along its length, but these are bound to struggle as they're in denial of the essential character of the High Street, which is all about movement. In our plan, at the centre of the footfall between the key anchor points, in the very heart of the town centre, we create a series of proper public open spaces. To achieve a strong connection between the High Street and new public spaces, the 3 unremarkable properties to the immediate east of the passageway, recently named Smithy Lane, opposite Boots, are removed. A clear visual and easy physical connection results between the linear High Street and the centralised open spaces. These 2 contrasting components are unified into a single town centre, enabling great mutual benefit. Not having a clear link such as this, relying instead on the public filtering through narrow passageways, would miss out on these advantages and leave the town centre physically, economically, and psychogeographically divided. The new public spaces take the form of 3 linked squares: Memorial Square, Market Square, and the Town Square. Memorial Square is a transitional space, so named because it physically and metaphorically links the old with the new. Traversing between the 2 parts of Hounslow Centre, in the midst of modern-day attractions, people are reminded of the town's history. These reminders can take the form not only of a dignified memorial to those townsfolk who fell in the two great wars, but also plaques and modern information boards describing Hounslow's past and present, all in a well-tended setting. The unquantifiable benefits of reinforced local identity and civic pride would far outweigh any accountant's assessment of cost. Market Square, as the name suggests, is host to a permanent open market. Stallholders would have long-term licenses or rotating short-term slots, either way resulting in revenue for the council. All sorts of goods would be on sale: clothes, household items, food and street food, farm produce, even professional advice and services, in an environment that offers an enjoyable contrast to the more common indoor shopping experience. The town square is a centre of year-round activity and entertainment, with a calendar of events published in advance. On certain days of the year, for example on specialist market days, the activities of Market Square will expand onto the town square. Generally, the programme of events for the town square will include musical and choral performances, concerts, outdoor theatre productions, mini fun fairs, and even travelling circuses. The town square is also to be a place for public celebrations, commemorations, and parades, such as on Vaisakhi, Eid, Diwali, and Remembrance Day. For 3 months in winter, mid-November to mid-February, the town square is transformed into an outdoor ice rink. Considering the popularity of winter ice rinks in central London and in Brighton, this feature in itself would make Hounslow a major attraction for people from miles around. Continuing the recreational theme, in warmer months and in the summer, the new town square would be an ideal venue for sporting tournaments, such as for netball, a national kabaddi championship, and even beach volleyball competitions. These are just a few of the possibilities. The place will be buzzing, and there would be healthy financial returns for the council and borough. The council recognises that successful places have strong public spaces, but it loses its nerve when it goes on to say that small and intimate public spaces are easier to design and less risky than large. It's true that small spaces can have their own special charm and character, but they're no substitute for well-designed and well-situated large public squares, or better still, a sequence of medium and large spaces with clear functions. We have to have the confidence to recognise the greater benefit to the public realm proposed in this plan. Again, it's not a game of maximising retail floor space. This is about diversity and quality rather than quantity. Our public space proposal here, by its very situation, would be animated at the edges by numerous cafes, retail and leisure facilities, not to mention civic buildings. It would be in the heart of these places and in the centre of public circulation routes. Mutually beneficial connections are everything, and there's an abundance of well-connected diversity in this plan for Hounslow High Street and the town centre. Our proposal provides a wealth of reasons for people to choose to come and shop and spend time in Hounslow, rather than the current options of the likes of Kingston or Westfield. Finally, other developments. To complement the main parts of the plan, there are a few other issues to be tidied up. A swimming pool. Since losing our public pool in the 1980s, residents have been promised, but have never received, a replacement. Our plan proposes, as a first option, the idea of a new public swimming pool in the rebuilt Hounslow Manor, now renamed Kingsley Academy. This would be a joint facility, with its initial cost and subsequent use to be shared between the school and the public. Redevelopment of the youth centre site, an adjacent council car park, could have a part to play in this scheme. Should cooperation with Hounslow Manor not be possible, we suggest construction of a new public swimming pool in Inwood Park, which a number of years ago had a Lido and a children's boating lake. Inwood Park is located just as close to the High Street as the Blenheim Centre, but because of the lack of obvious connections, it seems remote. A swimming pool could bring the park back into the town centre equation and revive it as a public resource. Whether or not a pool in the park is realised, signage and connections to the park certainly need to be improved. The Treaty Centre. the Treaty Centre stands to benefit from the revived and unified town centre proposed in this plan, with increased numbers of shoppers and visitors coming to the town centre and generally raised public expectations as to the quality of what's on offer. Apart from retail, the Treaty Centre houses the unique facilities of Hounslow Library and the Paul Robeson Theatre. It can choose to build on this by promoting an educational, cultural and arts niche, or it could take the riskier strategy of putting all its eggs in one basket and concentrating on retail only. In any case, we suggest that it would be a good idea for the Treaty Centre to accommodate Hounslow's main post office, as the first floor of W.H. Smith is not an appropriate location. Hounslow BR Station. Our plan proposes unblocking the Hanworth Road-Witton Road junction to give the town centre a clear and direct signposted link with Hounslow BR Station again, in the process reviving the fortunes of the long-dormant Witton Road. Holy Trinity Church and the police station. It's hoped that these institutions will remain in their present locations, as they have a valuable role to play in the diverse life of the town centre. Montague Hall. It's important for the townspeople to have a place for public meetings and private gatherings. Montague Hall can provide this, but it could do with improvement in terms of attractiveness as a venue to hire to host celebratory events such as weddings. Our plan retains the simplicity and spirit of the original High Street and town centre pattern, a revived linear thoroughfare with a good distribution of functions situated off it and carefully considered connections. But the original pattern has been reinterpreted and updated for modern times with the addition of a range of diverse features and activity to make Hounslow healthy and vibrant again and a destination town. Our plan gives Hounslow back a generous public heart, a distinct and attractive identity, and not least a large dose of civic pride. This plan has been prepared as the basis for a local neighbourhood plan. It develops ideas and answers a wish list put forward by Hounslow residents and residents groups, including the Hounslow Town Centre Neighbourhood Forum and Hounslow Central Residents Association, and it develops themes contained in the Hounslow Chamber of Commerce document, A Better Vision for Hounslow. Acknowledgement is also due to the Hounslow Historic Society for use of the images of the Old Town Hall and Library in Treaty Road.